Welcome, everyone. Regular meeting of council, Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023, council chambers. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nk'Kapma and the Silk people. No late items. Do we have any public input? I'm assuming no. Okay. Adoption of minutes. 4.1, regular council meeting minutes, July 25th, 2023. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 25th, 2023 be adopted. Councillor Egan, Councillor Etchart, any errors or omissions? Wendy, looking at you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. General Meadows, delegations, recognitions. Fortis BC. Shelley Martins from Fortis BC to present on Fortis BC Energy Transition Plan. And I do believe we have Shelley joining us through Zoom. There she is. Can you hear us, Shelley?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. How awesome is that?
Great, it still works.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Your Worship, Council, and staff for inviting me to present to your community today on Fortis BC's initiatives for transitioning to a lower carbon energy future in BC. Is the presentation available? If it's possible to pull it up on your screen, that would be very helpful. Sure, no problem. Okay, excellent. Thank you. If we could just move to the next slide, that would be great. Okay, so as a provider of both gas and electricity service to the province of BC, Fortis BC is uniquely positioned to understand the importance of a diversified energy future. You're likely familiar with Fortis BC, but just in case, I'll just go through that we are the BC's largest energy provider with more than 2,700 employees delivering natural gas, electricity, renewable natural gas, and innovative energy solutions to 1.2 million customers in 135 communities and 57 First Nations communities across the province. We deliver both gas and electricity and innovative energy solutions, and we are committed to an affordable, clean, renewable, and resilient energy future and are dedicated to supporting efforts to reach carbon neutrality in BC by 2050. There's a lot of information in this presentation to go through today, but I'm going to do my best to get through it as quickly as possible. But I'd really like to start by saying that we see this as the beginning of a conversation. So if we could just move to the next slide, please. In 2019, Fortis BC introduced our Clean Growth Pathway strategy, identifying 4 significant ways to help reduce our customers' greenhouse gas emissions and support the provincial climate action targets. Fortis BC's pillars include investing in energy efficiency programs, increasing our supply of renewable and low carbon gases, advancing low and no carbon transportation, and establishing BC as a liquefied natural gas or LNG center to help displace higher carbon fuels locally and globally. So we've been tracking our progress, and I'm pleased to share that our approach is working. Some of the highlights are shown on the screen from 2022, where we helped our customers avoid more than 760,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which is the equivalent annual emissions of roughly 238,000 gasoline-powered automobiles. This sets a new high point for avoided emissions since we began tracking our Clean Growth Pathway progress in 2020, representing a 34% improvement from 2021. Actions we're taking are yielding significant greenhouse gas emission reductions today, and we're finding new and better ways to help reduce customers' greenhouse gas emissions that fit their individual circumstances, budgets, and preferences. Most people do think that the majority of energy in BC comes from electricity. So a lot of people are surprised to know that it's actually lower than they think. It's only 17% of the energy in the province. The graph that you see shows that the energy demand in BC in 2019, FortisBC Energy, which is our gas division, delivers 17% of energy in BC through our natural gas system, which is more electricity than BC Hydro delivers at 14%. You'll also see that gas and refined petroleum products represent 67% of energy in the province. So if we think of transitioning to other fuels like electricity, for example, then we would have to convert 67% of the energy in BC to electricity. In other words, the electricity system needs to provide 5 times the energy it does today to replace fossil fuel energy. This is a gargantuan task, and we need to ask if there are other alternatives. And FortisBC thinks that there is. The next slide shows the winter energy peak in the province. So utility systems aren't designed or built to meet peak energy demand on the coldest and hottest days of the year. In December of 2022, BC Hydro announced a new peak capacity record of 10,800 megawatts. And at the same time, the gas system in the province reached near peak levels, delivering more than double that amount at the equivalent of 21,368 megawatts. Research from UVic, SFU, and UBC, as well as BC Hydro's own long-term resource plan, shows that there's not enough electricity to meet BC's peak demand and energy needs by 2028 in an accelerated electrification environment. FortisBC increased peak demand from 1,200 megawatts in 2021 to 2022, which is more than the Site C capacity. Earlier this year, in February of 2023, FortisBC submitted our Kelowna electrification case study as part of our long-term resource plan. We use the city of Kelowna as a case study here because we serve both gas and electricity customers in our shared service territory, and city of Kelowna is our largest municipality where we provide both gas and electricity. We provide slightly more gas to customers on an annual energy basis. The intent of the study is to provide stakeholders with more information on the impacts of electrification of gas demand on peak electric demand under cold temperatures. So as mentioned previously, electric systems are not built to accommodate the amount of growth anticipated for electrification. The case study demonstrated that under various electrification scenarios, from 25% electrification all the way up to 100%, peak demand could more than triple from the current expected 476 megawatts in 2040, which would result in approximately $2 to $3 billion of capital expenditures for system upgrades and land acquisition costs, but this does not include generation. And for context, the rate base of the entire FortisBC electric service territory is only $1.7 billion. So it's a significant investment that would need to be made just to electrify one community. As well, the capacity limit of the electric system in Kelowna is currently 550 megawatts. So even a moderate level of 25% of electrification of the gas load would result in significant upgrades and expenditures. After surpassing the 550 megawatts capacity that we currently provide, then 2 500 kilovolt transmission lines, as well as 20 new distribution substations and 100 new distribution feeders would be required in and around the city of Kelowna. The additional challenges with electrification include building large amounts of generation, acquiring land for transmission lines and substations, permitting, environmental approvals, obtaining Indigenous consent, the timelines required for actually constructing the projects, and customers potentially needing to upgrade their own homes and electric panels. These are explained further in the case study, which can be found on the BC Utilities Commission website, and I'd be happy to share that with Council if you'd like to take a look at it. The other factor is that all of these will impact FortisBC electric rates. Just to electrify the city of Kelowna would require a rate increase to all FortisBC electric customers, which is about 170,000 of approximately 70%. So it's a significant increase in rate impacts to customers. So what is renewable gas and how does that play a role in the diversified pathway that FortisBC is proposing? The province's Clean BC roadmap to 2030 recognizes the role of both gas and electric infrastructure to achieving long-term greenhouse gas reductions and highlights BC's gas distribution system as a critical decarbonization channel. Well, some of you may know what renewable gas is. For those that don't, it is methane that is produced by renewable sources such as decomposing organic waste from landfills, agriculture waste, and wastewater treatment facilities. Methane is the same molecule that makes up conventional natural gas. So we are displacing molecules of fossil fuel, conventional natural gas with something that is already emitted into the environment. So beyond our renewable gas offerings, which FortisBC has been providing to our customers for more than a decade, we're also actively pursuing other low carbon energy opportunities such as hydrogen, lingon, which is biomass, and syngas, which is synthetic gas. There are different ways to incorporate hydrogen as well into the gas delivery system, offering enormous potential to help us transition the energy we deliver to our customers over time. I'll just get you to go, thank you. So what are the benefits of renewable natural gas? Renewable gas has an extremely low emissions factor. Electricity has an emissions factor of 3 kilograms per gigajoule at the burner tip, while renewable gas has an emissions factor of only 0.29. Renewable gas displaces the need for conventional gas molecules in it and its emissions by capturing methane that would otherwise be vented into the atmosphere. And while renewable gas rates are slightly more expensive than natural gas rates, they are currently cheaper than electricity rates for customers. Since renewable gas is a drop-in fuel, it works with existing appliances, and as such, costly retrofits to customers are not required. And I'll just go to the next one. So we're often asked how much FortisBC has of renewable natural gas supply and how much is available. Right now, FortisBC currently has 18 million gigajoules of renewable gas under contract. And to put that into context, the average home in BC uses approximately 90 gigajoules of gas per year. What FortisBC already has under contract is enough to heat 320,000 homes, or is the equivalent capacity output of Site C Dam once it's built. Transitioning to renewable gas leverages more than 50,000 kilometers of existing pipelines, as well as significant energy storage capacity necessary to meet peak day and seasonal demands. Pursuing the diversified pathway would be notably less costly for British Columbians by approximately $100 billion by the year of 2050. These savings are driven by using our existing infrastructure, which avoids the cost of building new electric generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure. The province's roadmap does recognize the role for the gas system, and the various provincial policies and development and regional coordination, as well as provincial alignment and policies, is critical to achieving our shared emission reduction goals. FortisBC currently has an application in front of the BC Utilities Commission, our renewable gas proposed program. The BCUC is our regulator, so they do approve all of the applications that we do submit for initiatives that we're undertaking. Part of that application proposes that all new residential customers would receive 100% renewable gas for the life of the building, that all existing customers would automatically receive a blend of renewable gas starting in 2024, and that we continue to offer voluntary blends to customers in all sectors up to 100%. Since the natural gas systems across North America are interconnected, when RNG is injected into the system, it mixes with conventional gas. This means that RNG can't be directed to a specific location, but when a customer signs up for the renewable gas program, It displaces conventional natural gas molecules. So the more renewable gas that's added to the system, the less conventional natural gas is needed overall, thereby reducing the use of fossil fuels. And this is our last slide. Transforming BC's energy future will not happen overnight, and it will not be easy. It requires continual progress on emissions reductions path that is ambitious and considers our core purpose as an energy provider to deliver reliable and affordable energy to our customers that they need every day. This will lead to a lower carbon future that is both attainable and sustainable, and we're making meaningful progress towards helping make that future a reality. Affordability is a key concern among BC residents and FortisBC customers, while producing energy locally is a top policy priority for government to consider. As we transition to a low carbon economy, care must also be taken to ensure we purchase cost-effective strategies that will not result in higher costs for energy consumers. We hope that you have a better understanding of the role and potential for renewable gases, and we'd like to leave you with a few things to consider, including recognizing that renewable gas is a low carbon energy system in the same fashion as electricity, and ensuring that policy frameworks continue to provide a role for gas in buildings. By working collaboratively with FortisBC, we can help to support your community when considering your community climate action plans. And by continuing to decarbonize buildings in your community and reduce emissions by utilizing renewable gas to ensure a low carbon, resilient, and affordable energy system. As I mentioned at the start, we hope that this is the beginning of an ongoing conversation, and I thank you again for the opportunity to present to Council tonight.
Presentation. I'm assuming you're open for questions. I'm assuming we will have a couple. Just one question that I have right now. With all the wildfires going on and some of the situations that are having, have any of your transmission areas been affected, or any of your lines been affected by what's been going on all over the province?
We're continually monitoring our system across the province, specifically in areas at the moment in the Shuswap and the Okanagan, as well as the South Okanagan with the ongoing wildfires. We have really highly technical people that are always monitoring and making sure that our system remains safe. And we have round the clock monitoring both from our operations as well as from our gas control center. And we're able to shut in areas that may be of concern. We have had potentially some services impacted through the fires, but we are working very closely with our municipal partners to ensure that that those areas are safe before residents are able to return home.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Charney?
Thank you for that report. It was excellent. I did a little bit of reading on how you took all of these products and made it into the renewable gas. It was very interesting. So are you encouraging communities to get a green bin going so that we are collecting organic waste from our homes?
I think, green bin curbside collection would certainly be something that can be supported because it does help to provide that additional resource or supply for renewable gases. Whether it goes into the landfill and then it's converted into renewable gas at that point, or we work on other project opportunities with communities for building new renewable gas supply, facilities and things like that. So I would say it would be something that we would support, yes.
Are there grants available for setting up a community to help with renewable gas?
I wouldn't necessarily say grants per se, but I could certainly look into that a little bit further to see what we are doing in the way of funding projects. We do fund projects with private partnerships, but I can find out a little bit more about what we're doing with municipalities.
Thank you.
Presentation, and we'll look for the follow-up on that funding question. And thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person, but I look forward to meeting you all at UBCM. Okay, thank you very much.
Unfinished business. 6.1. 3350 Vote Street and 3155 Grimmett Street, request for reconsideration of invoices. This item has been returned from the July 25th, 2023 regular council meeting. The recommendation is that council direct staff to uphold the invoice number 7120 in the amount of $7,693.61 and in the invoice of number 6996 in the amount of $7,814.36. Can I have a mover on that? Councillor Ogan, seconded by Councillor Charney. Any questions from anyone? Councillor Ogan.
Unless if there is any additional information that can be provided by the owner of this property, I am in favor of all the invoices for this as issued.
Oh.
Thank you, Worship. I did just want to draw Council's attention to the fact that
Yes.
We do have representatives from SPIAM who I believe are willing and able to speak
Sure.
to this matter as well.
You bet. I'll just let Councillor Charney go, and then we'll get to the crowds. Councillor Charney, go ahead, please.
This process started on April 11th when the property was inspected with a compliance letter sent out on April 12th. These letters were sent to the same address as the property taxes. This letter was not returned, property taxes were paid. So the only assumption that I can come to is that the letter was received. And by May 23rd, it had still not been addressed by the owners, and so it continued to meet the definition of unsightly. So contractors were then hired on May 25, and I personally would uphold the decision to apply the fine.
Susan? Okay. Chief Jackson, please. I'll get you to push the red button when you come up there, Chief, please. Sure, please. You already gave me one. Still have one. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Chief Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Stu Jackson. I'm chief of the Lornick Indian Band, and I am a director, one of the directors of the SPIAM Development Holdings Group that holds a various number of properties and some interests and business interests in the Nicola Valley that I'm sure the City Council might be aware of. So yeah, we're speaking about two invoices here. I want to, first of all, thank the Mayor for your time. I think it was about a week ago, along with your colleague, to just to listen in to our chairperson, Susan Rolleen's deliberation, along with mine. So I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the leadership's time tonight as well, too. So a little bit of background, I guess. Maybe I'll just give you guys maybe a quick spiel. I'm familiar with SPIAM Holdings. I've been on the board numerous times prior. I've been on the board now for about 2 years, and we're trying to do a lot of work. We're trying to build relationships. We're trying to build a network with the city, with the nations. And so these invoices, they do come at a bit of a shock. I think if you take a look at the price of the invoices, I think I should get into grass cutting. And I'll say that meekly, but nonetheless, pretty significant. I'll just have a few things I'd like to read out here, so just bear with me. First and foremost, the board of directors have sat down and we spoke about these invoices. And I think we're at a crossroads with the motion that's being entertained tonight. You know, depending on what occurs, the board will act accordingly on our side. No notice of order received at our post office box. So there's no notice or order received at our PO box. Okay. No record of it being received in the offices of our contracted bookkeepers, Strauchem Tribal Council, who collect Spim's postal mail. There are no other attempts that were made to reach Spime Holdings, the limited partnership board members, or bookkeepers. And I think it's fair to say that we all kind of know who we are here. Susan is no stranger to the Nicola Valley, and she's no stranger in terms of her position as chairperson of our board of directors. Don't think it'd be too hard to find whoever we need to find to make sure that information has been transferred properly. Speaking to the cost, the city's invoices total $15,507.97, which is over 20 times that of our recent cost of $744.80 of mowing the site on July 19th, 2023. The invoice is in your handout. Justification, the site on April 11th, 2023 had marginal growth. And I spoke to the mayor about this a short time ago. So the marginal growth of its natural vegetation due to our cold and late spring. Then the handouts were taken May 11th, 2023. And the photos handed out to the council show marginal growth a full month after the notice of order was issued. And one of the things I spoke a little bit about was I hear with the presentation with Fortis talking about these fires and things that are going on. I think we're all very much aware of what's happening in our world. And I think we're in fire danger. I don't know if I could argue that in the month of April. We're starting to embark on our spring, but I'm not a fire expert, but it just has me thinking, wow, April, and we're worrying already. And where's the correspondence and how can we work together? So anyway, I just wanted to emphasize that July, yes, I'd be concerned. April, be aware, be prepared, and be mindful of it, and we can get it done. It would seem that there was little regard for taxpayers' dollars when invoices of this size are accepted without question and in turn charged to property owners. Spim's Holdings Limited Partnership owns several off-reserve parcels of land within the city and Merritt boundaries. It has always been our intention to work cooperatively with the city, whether it's developing a vacant lot into meaningful developments or maintaining existing buildings and parking lots. But when invoices such as the large ones that have been presented to us that we are disputing tonight are issued, with no attempts to work with us to ensure we did in fact receive the notice of order, we question the city's wishes to have a cooperative relationship with the shareholders of Spime Holdings Limited Partnership. And for those of you that may not know, Spime is made up of the 5 nations in the valley. And that wasn't too long ago, and maybe some of the incumbent council can recall, but a memorandum of understanding was entertained to the nations. It was also entertained to the TNRD to work together collectively to look at economic development opportunities and corresponding and collaborating and building a network. It wasn't too long ago when I was reelected that we had it was quite a warm, delightful feeling to know that some of the city council actually came to my inauguration and participated in that, and I appreciated that. That's building, that's networking, and that's building relationships. If there's gaps, we figure them out. We work together. But to throw a $15,000 invoice in our face, and there's really, to me, no recollection or there's no clarity on our administration to say that we even actually received it. I mean, this city is made up of, what, 7,500? It's not a 700,000 populated city where we can't find anybody or know who to talk to or who to get in touch with. It just seems a little bit unusual, I think, especially when we work, when we have opportunities to work together, events occur. You know, the city council and the leadership, the First Nations leadership were invited to these things and we're engaging, and maybe not as much as we would like to, but at least show some, I guess, presence and some initiative to say, yeah, you know, the nations in the city want to work together. And so I don't want to take much more time. I want to, again, thank the leadership for the opportunity to speak. I hope that we can come to some understanding or some way to resolve this. I think the cost is astronomical. I'll say that. And our board is quite concerned. And we hope that, you know, that something can be worked out here. So with that, quick state, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Charney?
Stuart, thank you for that presentation. and I don't look at it as us versus you. You know, I'm not looking at, I didn't even look at ownership of the property. I was just looking at Grimmett and vote when I looked at the first thing. I'm not looking at who owns the land. And I think that one of the reasons we're starting in April is because we want to be on the offense and not defense when it comes to fires. So we know that these fires are going to start. So the earlier we start on Fire Smart, the better it is for the community. And it was also deemed as an unsightly property, not just for fire hazard. It was unsightly. Could I ask you a few questions? Why did you take these pictures on May 11th? Oh, so what was the reasons for these pictures here then? Okay, okay. Yeah, one's closer than the other. What is the box number for Spyam Holdings? Okay, thank you. So that's where the letters were sent to, box 188. Okay, I don't think I had any other. Okay, I assume these letters were sent separately? Just separately, so two letters were sent to box 188. Okay. Yeah, Stu, I'm not really wanting to make it a racist thing or anything. It's strictly just address as far as I'm concerned. Okay.
Councillor Richard?
I really do appreciate the comments, and we do work with the community, and that site has been the site of the hotel and the pub and stuff, and it's a landmark over the years. And in years past, especially this last 10 years, we've seen a lot of fire activity that has happened in other years in April and May. Fort Mac, I think, burned down in May of, 2018 or 17. And we're seeing a lot of fire activity. So I know as a group, we're really concerned about getting on things earlier in the year to prevent fire and large fires, because as we've learned from Fire Smart presentations from our own fire hall, the embers can travel up to 2 kilometers quite quickly. And when you get an area of land like that, if somebody drops a cigarette in the dry times that we've had, some of our months have been quite dry early with no precipitation, it's putting us at a high risk. And so we've really been trying to go on the emergency preparedness recently. So it was no attack on anyone. It's not, I don't feel it was picking on anybody or anything. And the letter went out same as I would get a letter for my yard not being up to par. I don't think it was singling out anyone. I can appreciate that the cost is quite high if it hadn't been trimmed in some time. And I can appreciate that that's an expense, but I feel like the letter that went out would be the same as I would get as a resident in the community. And so I don't feel that it was trying to do anything unfairly. And I think that we owe it to the citizens to treat everyone the same with trying to mitigate fire risk. And we have to try and treat everyone the same, but we also have to make sure that we're trying to reduce any fire risk before the extreme heat, because we're finding that things are heating up a lot faster than ever. And so by April, we want to make sure that we're getting on things quite early. So that's all I have to say for that.
Yes, please. We prefer the microphone because people are actually watching, Chief.
Councillor. Again, I think maybe I didn't emphasize it enough, is that, so it's your understanding that we received a letter, and then there was this possibility that maybe another letter was sent out. What we're trying to say is we didn't receive these letters, okay? So if I got a letter and I actually received it, like it's in my hands and I'm reading it and it's telling me something that I need to do, then I'm going to act on it. But if I don't even have the letter in my hands, whether there's two that were sent, and we have no, we have no information, we have no, we didn't know. We simply did not have the letters in our hands to give us notice because of fire preparedness, fire safety, and all those things. And I appreciate that. I understand that. I mean, if that's a proactive approach beyond the offensive, like you said, Councillor, I get it. I totally understand that. And if we were told and we're given notice and we're given proper notice, the correspondence was in our hands, comes to our board, and then we address it and we deal with it.
And
but
so,
we did not. But we didn't receive that, is what I'm saying. Okay.
Okay. And so, what happened with your 2022 letter when this happened last year?
I can't answer that.
Oh, okay.
But what I can answer is why I'm here tonight as a board of director.
Okay.
And being asked to speak, is that our administration, who is right behind me,
yeah,
who receives all of our mail, said she did not receive it. Okay? Now, had we received it, like all the other years, because the grassland's been gone for a good number of years. I think 2007 is when I think is when things went crazy.
Yeah.
Had we go back from there to now, not thinking about the fire domes that we've been dealing with these last couple of years. But I don't recall in all the years that I've been on the SPIAM board that we had this problem or had this issue about this unsightly area or whatever it is that the deer love to graze on, especially in April. But if we would have received the letter, we as a board have to do our due diligence to the leadership as well, to our responsibilities to our shareholders. Why would we compromise that? So all I'm saying, and I don't want to go down any more rabbit holes here, but had we received the letter, it would have been addressed. Chuck.
Right, and so Chief, thank you for that. We also have a responsibility to our taxpayers. This bill's already been paid, so we have a responsibility to the taxpayers as well. And this property has been complained on several times over the years, even when I was a councillor. So. Councillor Charney?
Excuse me, I didn't catch the name of the young lady on your right, Stu. Noreen. Okay. You took this picture on May 11th. Okay, somebody took this picture on May 11th to show the difference between what was in our letter to you. So if you said you wanted to show the difference in the But it wasn't to do with that issue that was taken. This organization has been trying to get a development put forth on that property for many years, and that hasn't. So there's lots of reasons that we have taken. I Okay, because you originally said it was to show the comparison of, okay, okay, thank you.
Councillor Hogan.
Before I make my comment, the staff wants to say something.
I was just going to clarify that we have sent out in 2022, staff sent out 72 properties or letters to 72 properties. In 2023, this number was reduced to 48 properties. The letters, the 2 letters that were sent out to Spyam Holdings for these 2 properties, a letter was sent out to each property. They were addressed to a numbered company. They were not addressed to Spyam individually. It was just to a numbered company. So staff are not aware of who owns a numbered company generally.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to clarify that for you.
Councillor Hogan.
Yeah, thank you. So it seems to me that this problem is not new. Seems to me that you have dealt in the past with situations. This is only the difference is that the organization says that didn't receive the letters, but in the past years they were dealing with the same situation to maintain that property. So if there is already the organization understands that their property is unsightly area, then I feel like we have the commitment to maintain that property. So I feel like there is a process in place that the city has implemented to notify people, and that has been successful. So I don't understand why 2 letters were not received. And I feel like, in the contrary of Chief said, that there was no attempts to work with them. So I think I feel the opposite. I feel like there was that communication. So we will have to figure it out what happened with those letters and why you didn't receive them.
Any other questions? Councillor Regan.
Thank you, and thank you for your remarks, Councillor. I was just wondering why, when you compare the difference in the invoices, why was the city or the contractor bill so high?
Because it was 2 months later. It had already been cut. It was cut 2 months earlier.
I'm just wondering why it was $7,000.
Because the first time it was cut, it was 3 times as high. So.
Okay. Yeah, I know it. I drive by it every day. Yeah.
If you want to speak, you got to come to the microphone, please. Go ahead.
Okay, from reading the invoicing and the dates that they invoiced that are on your invoices to us, they state in May the date. There is no other dates. It was only within a 4 or 5 day time frame that they were invoicing us for, or invoiced the city for. That's what's reiterated to us. I don't have it in front of me. I believe the 2 properties were done almost at the same time. If you look at the size of the properties, I don't know why it would have taken 6 days for 4 people to clear those properties. It seems excessive. Your contractor, I believe, is excessive.
It wasn't our contractor. It was just a contractor. Contractor doesn't belong to us.
Okay.
We just hire somebody to do the job, same as you guys hire people to do jobs for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my comment is the work was not done in April. The work was done in May. The grass hadn't grown, and that was why the showing of the pictures, it hadn't changed in any great fashion. We didn't have the opportunity to have that grass mowed. We would have had it mowed. In 22, our buildings flooded. We were still reeling, most of our staff were still reeling from the flooding that happened in November of 21. So any letter that came through in 22, I don't know if it got in the office. I couldn't tell you what happened in 22. We were still dealing with a building that we were trying to get fixed amongst everybody else trying to get their buildings or their properties fixed at the same time. Mm-hmm. So that was a trying year. Was it put out of our mind? Yes. Because we were dealing with other things, the same as everybody else in the city was dealing with other things. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's
I
all.
just get you to push that button before you go there. Just turn the mic off. Thank you. Councillor Charney.
I see that your contractor used a tractor and a mower. I do know that when they cleared the grasslands area, it was by hand with the weed whacker because apparently the sagebrush or whatever that stuff is was too thick to use a lawnmower. That was my understanding of it. So.
Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried for now. Thank you. All right, moving on. 6.2. Pine Ridge Cemetery Columbarian Design to be introduced by Mr. Green. Mr. Green, if you will. Look at me half the time. Okay, there you go.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. A little while back, last year in the fall, we had canceled a tender that went out that was well over the budgeted amount to complete work at the cemetery to build a new columbarium, garden area, big retaining walls and whatnot. So that was canceled and brought forward in the budget this year again to proceed either to tender or to do something different. And my suggestion at the time was, let's do something different and leave the existing columbarium where it was instead of moving it over to this new garden. And council had asked me to bring back a concept design for approval before we went down the road farther into tendering again. So I spent a little bit of time with a landscape architect, and we have come up with the new plan that's in the report here. It's basically working around the existing columbarium to stay in place. The stuff that's on the right is that new garden area that was planned. And we're gonna center an area now around where that existing one was and make room for a couple, two more of them, and then a scattering garden on a smaller scale with a lot less retaining wall. And that's essentially the plan for now. Bearing in mind, if I get the numbers right here, what we had planned last year would have produced about 160 urn niches. That's the way you pronounce that? Niche. Sorry. And on the 25-year recommendation in the cemetery master plan, we're looking for somewhere around 570. So this is going to be an ongoing moving thing over time regardless. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to leave that existing one where it was instead of centering on this new area when we know we have to do more later and we're going to have to find space later for it as well. So what I've got now is still going to need to be augmented later. The expectation is this will be our 5-year, sort of between 1 and 5 year stock of niches. And then that'll give us time to then plan the future depending on how the growth requirements go with the cemetery. It is a little bit of a crapshoot on forecasting numbers. That said, we're not stuck with sort of just one small amount here. This is going to be an ongoing thing. Development at the cemetery for sure. So to that end, if everybody's been through the concept plans that I was asked to bring back to give you an idea of what it would look like. We're looking at terracing in a smaller area, a little bit of hard surfacing, some small retaining walls that don't recall railings and things like that, some vegetation and a scattering garden centered around that same area. We're going to realign the roads a little bit just to make sure we have the space we need to develop that corner, and thinking that's going to buy us some time anyways in an area where we need them regardless, and we're going to continue to need them. So my question of you tonight would be if you're okay with sort of the plan of how this is going together, the products, the location, the general aesthetics of this stage 1. We'd like to be able to push forward to a design and a tender. Right now or a detailed design and a tender. Right now it's pricing out the way they've got it right around the budget money that we have, if not a hair over. We'll know a little bit more when we do get into detailed design and tie it down a little bit better. And my goal right now is if we do have to cut some things out, we can cut the last things out. But we need to get bases in for new columbariums. And this isn't adding new columbariums yet. Those are about $60,000 a piece just to put the unit on top of the slab. So I'm looking at getting the underground done, the foundations done, some wall work done, and working our way with the money that we have. Then if we have to add some stuff later and continue to grow the cemetery, we'll just have to do that operationally out of budgets over the years. So we're going to be close with the money that we have, and it may not be the exact full thing you see here, but basically working from the bottom up to get there. If that makes any sense at all.
Everybody's lighting up. Sure, so let's go to Council, Councilor Richard.
I was just wondering, by the design that you have there, where it's got the legend, would the entrance be on the side closest to Juniper, like where the residences are, and then go up to the top?
So the way we have it laid out right now is there'll be a level walk-in from that side where it goes up the top. There'll be a level walk-in in the middle, and then you can go each way from there, is what should be on the plan view. Yes. So we have two walk-in areas, and then there's also one directly from the bottom as well, which in this case, it's on the right-hand side of the page. And then we have two coming in from the top, which is the side.
With the design, would people be able to drive in, like if there's a funeral procession?
Oh, you won't be driving into this little garden area?
No.
You'll be driving around. There'll be availability to park sort of off of the roads on either side as you get around there and walk back down to the site.
If they'll be down. So there will still be the access that you can drive in, go over the top and come back down, or?
Yeah, the roads themselves will stay in place. We're gonna tweak them a little bit to make sure we have good turning movement for what we need to get in there. Okay. Other than that, pretty much where they're at.
Greg, do you have the one with the car shadows that are on it? Yeah, right there. You can see the cars there. See the yellow things there? Those would be the cars.
Yeah. So what we have is
these are the cars. Are there?
Car park there.
Here, there, here, walk in, walk in, walk in.
Because right now we have the one, but are you?
There's two ways you can get up there.
No, I know, I understand. But right now you have the one that we weren't going to move, but do we have another one on order?
No, there's not. We just opened up the one that we don't want to move and started using it.
Yeah.
Once a decision was made not to use it because we were falling behind in ability to, what's the right word, store?
Inter.
Well done, thank you. I don't speak cemetery real well. Trying to avoid it at all costs.
Insurance kills people. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, generally speaking, yes.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, yeah, because I mean, I know in other communities they have a lot of these set up in some of the other spots where you can kind of drive in and the procession kind of comes in. So I was just wondering how that would work, but I know that there's reasonable parking at the top right now, but I didn't know if that was going to change with this plan, but it seems okay.
Yeah, it's basically things are set back a little bit from the road throughout the area, that being able to pull gently off without running over something is generally available and still get around them. It's tight regardless. I mean, I've seen tighter ones, but it should work.
Thanks.
Councilor Egan.
Yeah, okay, just a couple of questions. Like in these pictures here, these are trees, all these big green circles, is that what those are?
Yes.
Okay, and then it looks to me like in a future plan, you have another one at the top of the other where there's no grass, but it's all the older part of the cemetery. This bit here.
In that was the design for what was tendered last year. We're still holding on to that with the idea that that will likely go forward eventually because we're going to need those stalls eventually.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great design, I think. Thank you.
I'll get you to kill your mic there, Councilor. Thank you. Councilor Charney.
I think you've done a lot of work here and it looks great. Those circles, they're not the trees though, aren't they? Aren't 5 and 7 the trees? And this, what are those circles? Green circles or? I know there's a
Yeah.
whole pile of them, but you're not gonna have just grass here, 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 and here. I don't know. But is it going to be grass or, I'm just wondering if it is going to be grass because of, you know, right now the situation we're having where we can't water grass. Is there anything else that we can do that looks nice and is presentable? And
Definitely. Bearing in mind, this is a concept design.
Yeah.
They've colored a lot of stuff to make it look like grass. What we do in those areas, if we're not physically walking on them all the time, you're right, those are shade trees, the circles.
Oh.
We can definitely tune things up, and, you know, when you look around the city in general, we probably want to take as many opportunities as we can not to have unnecessary grass, because it's that much more to maintain, cut, water being a fairly big thing right now. So any opportunities we can to reduce the amount of grass and keep things beautiful, for sure. It's just a matter of whether or not we intend to sit and walk on it, and use it as grass.
Well, I think the shade tree is an excellent idea. How many niches are being used right now? Does anyone know?
Third? Possibly.
Okay, okay.
There's 2 names? Okay.
So the one columbarium that we have right now is for 40. Is that correct?
I want to say, yes.
Is it?
40 per structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the rate it's going, you know, if we get all the groundwork done and ready to go, we're not in a real big rush for the second and third columbariums then. We can.
Correct. I want to get the groundwork done, the
done
foundations
first,
in.
yeah.
We'll
Good
require further funding later because they're somewhere around $60,000 a piece to actually put the monument, what do they call them, columbarium up.
Yep.
And there's room for 2 more of them up there to give us 120 in that corner.
I think that's a good idea, preparing and getting ready. But we're not in a rush right now, just getting.
Yeah, we're not dying to get this
No,
done.
that's right, we're not. Thank you.
Just to clarify,
CO quick.
just to clarify, each of the niches, the top ones, each one can hold 2 people. The bottom ones are a little larger and can actually hold 3 people.
Councillor, everybody's lit. I'm gonna go with Councillor Oldham.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about numbers. So this item is coming from the 2022 budget. So I am assuming that perhaps the estimate that's from that the same year. So my concern is that there is a statement in your report that says if tender pricing exceeds budget, a reduction of the desired scope will be done to meet the budget, right? So is this project? Well, I'm just trying to find out if this is possible. So sometimes a project needs to be broken down in phase 1 and phase 2. So I'm concerned that it was going to be outside the budget that has already allocated for that. So, and if that happens, so instead of exploring a reduction, I would like to see if that's possible to have the phase 1 so that we can complete phase 2 with a different budget for that specific year when that is gonna happen.
Definitely. The way I would plan something like this is obviously bottom up. We want to get all the structure, the foundations in first. We can add trees, potentially later some of the shrubs or finished items. And I would stage something like this is we have certain things that are must-have that we want to for sure happen, and then we can have some deletable items in the contract as well. So probably the finish items being trees and probably more of the pretty surface items might be delayed a little bit. We can also postpone some of the block work and sidewalks and work our way into it for sure. We have to be very cognizant of the budget here because we don't want to be in a position where we tender something and find out that we're significantly over budget again and then be scrambling to go or no go. I want to be able to get something done here, and my priority right now is foundations, put more structures up.
I'm gonna go with Councillor Petrosi, sorry.
Yeah, Rick, thanks. Great work. I really like the design, and less maintenance down the road, right? That's, I think, what we're probably going to be the priority, less maintenance. And I don't know whether it's landscape rock or something other than grass. I don't, something, yeah, right? So great work. Thank you.
Councillor Regan?
Yes, the only other question I have is about the spreading garden. Never heard of that before. And this, I would imagine, would be just the names of the people whose ashes are being spread?
Yeah.
Yep.
How does a spreading garden work?
Pretty much like it sounds from what I understand.
From my understanding is watch, so you don't throw them up in the air, you put it in a pile and the wind moves things around. So, yes. One other thing, Rick, with the Hospice Society that approached us about the wind phone, have we taken that into consideration as well? Has Sky talked to you about that at all?
The which?
It's called the wind phone.
Wind phone.
Basically what a wind phone is it was designed in Japan. The Hospice Society brought this forward. And so many people were lost at that time that loved ones didn't have a proper chance to say goodbye to them. So what has been done around the world is a phone that hooks up to absolutely nothing is put up there where people can go up and say the words they feel they need to say that they didn't get a chance to say.
Okay.
I talked to Sky about it and gave him some information. I guess I should have given it to you, but I'll get that to you.
Okay.
It's not a grandiose thing. We already have a phone donated. And it's a very small thing, but I think it's a very large thing for one thing that you will find, and council here will most likely that have been here a long time, the cemetery is a very sacred place for a lot of people in this town. We hear it when things don't look right or when things aren't going right. I have a friend buried up there, Mike Morrison. I speak to him all the time, so I would use a wind phone. So I'll get that information to you. It doesn't really change your design. It's basically just a small little structure with a phone that goes to nowhere, and I will get you some of that information. Yeah, and I think it's a really good. Oh yeah, there it is right there. And I think we would be probably tapping NVIT, the carpentry department, to build the country-looking stand, or maybe the high school. But there basically will be no cost except setting it into the ground.
I'm sure we can find a really nice
Okay,
spot.
I just thought I would bring that up. I wasn't sure that had been brought your way, but I love the plan. I think it's really great. I've gone up to look at the columbarium. Matter of fact, I talked to a lady up there who had some questions, and I think it looks really nice. So I'm glad there's some people in it now. And we did, Rick, we did make it a little larger, did we not? So people could put some designs on their front if they wish to.
Yes, anyone who's interred is, we do have it so that there is a 1-inch border around
Yes.
the outside, just to give enough space between each of the columbarium faceplate niches. And you are able to put 2 pictures on each faceplate.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? So we have a recommendation. The council approve the concept design as presented and direct staff to continue with detailed design, tendering, and construction. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Charney, any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Green. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
6.3, Chamber of Commerce. On June 27th, 2023, the Chamber of Commerce presented to the city, there's your link, Economic Development Manager Marilyn Christensen has researched, support provided to Chamber and similar municipalities, and her research item is attached. Are there any questions for Marilyn at this point in time? Now, so Rick, if I could just, now this is we're talking about the request made by the Chamber for the 11.5, are we not on this?
That is correct.
And are we expected to come to a decision tonight, or is this an information item for us?
There is no resolution attached
Okay.
to this report.
Okay, so this is an information item?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's essentially up to council what you wish to do with this. So
Okay.
the Chamber of Commerce presented as a delegation and
Yes.
made their request. So staff have done the research that's been attached to this to provide you with more information. So if you want to make a decision about the Chamber of Commerce's request, then that is up to you. Alternatively, if you want to postpone that to a specified later time, then that would be also an option as a deferral under the procedure bylaw. Or you could ultimately decide to simply receive this as information and proceed and never do anything again. That's also entirely up to you as an option. Essentially, the ball is very much in Council's court at this point.
Thank you, CEO Ellis. Council, what is our flavor of the day here? Councilor Hogan.
So thank you so much for this information. I think that it's very useful to understand how municipalities, Chamber of Commerce, and other organizations are working together. So I feel like we can take this as information only, and if we can have a COW meeting, a presentation, so that we can talk to the Chamber and about all these options, could be great.
Okay, thank you. Any other choices? We'll accept it as a information item. Thank you, Councilor Hogan. Appreciate it. Let's move on to number 7, or 7.1, Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw 2356-2023 Amendment to Bylaw 2228. Kevin, over to you.
So, Your Worship, we spoke about this
Yes.
earlier. This is one that we're going to defer to have the applicant present on in the September council meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we'll defer this to another time. So we will move that on. New business. Oh.
Ideally, if you could move second and vote that this be postponed to the September 26th council meeting, then I think that would give us the safest possible grounds to work on in terms of things like inviting them and making sure when it's coming back.
Motion that we move this to the September 22nd meeting. Councillor Hogan agrees. Councillor Charney agrees. Any other questions? Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, CEO. 8.1, City of Merritt Compost Facility, to be introduced by Mr. Green. Would you like me to do my little spiel here first, Rick, or do you want to go through?
Thank you, Worship. If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind framing up first,
Sure,
and then you can shoot me down afterwards.
Sure.
Okay. So, just to give you a bit of framework for what we discovered shortly after I got here, is we did an inspection out at the compost facility, which was largely based on safety at the time. And I believe there's been 1 or 2 subsequent inspections since then. And it's, bottom line, it's going to take some investment to bring this site up to proper working order, so that we have safe environment for staff that's working up there. We have good access to it, and things stored correctly, and maybe a lot less issues with break-in and whatnot, and fire. We have had a number of fire calls up there in my time here already, which is just over a year, which obviously come at a cost as well. So going into this budget cycle, the reason why I wanted to bring it up now, I tried to get it earlier, I just haven't had time, is we have to start thinking about upgrades to the site and investing more money in it to get it up to current safety and WorkSafe BC standards for the staff and for the access and all the appurtenances that are built in there. So before we start budgeting for that, I wanted to get it into your heads that we have options that could involve somebody else running the site for us under a proposed lease situation. We can tender out hauling of our bio waste. We can haul bio waste ourselves if we invest in a larger truck. Number of different options, like I said, in there. Money right now, as far as the operations go, isn't a key concern. It's probably going to be very close to a wash by the time it all sets out, but the capital investment we're going to have to put into the site to upgrade it to standards is probably the thing that we need to consider most, which is why I want to get this talked about before we start on the budget process. So to that end, love it if you could give us your spiel as well.
So when I came into council in 2008, we had just had this project completed. There's a lot of history behind this, and I don't feel right now that council has all the information they need, the history. So I would prefer we move this to a COW where we can present all the information, the past history, what has happened there. It was privately owned once. There's been a lot of pushback on this site out there. So I think making a decision tonight would be a little erroneous on our part. So I would prefer we move it to a cow where Mr. Green can present everything and we can have everything in front of us and move on from there. So that's my suggestion. Councillor Ogan.
Thank you for that. So yes, I do need more information. I do understand that there are options here. I would like to see cash flow projections. So we are talking about expenses and something in between 20K and 30K for last year. So I need I would like to know specifically how much was spent for last year. I would like also to understand if how much was the cost to deal with the fires for that specific year. And I understand also the revenue that is coming here, but also when we run about the other options that you presented, so I also need to understand what would be the revenue for those options.
Yes, and if I may, so far we haven't been able to deep dive all those costs at this point because we're dealing more with the concept of do we want to push forward and run a facility and bring it up to standards or not. All the different options that we have are going to take a fair bit of work to cash flow out and get better numbers. We've got generalized numbers by having open conversations with people that might be able to provide services. But when it comes down to it, we're, other than the known costs of what we're operating now, to put a hard number on something that could be if we were to tender it one way or the other, as we've been finding with just about every other tender that we throw out there, we're learning an awful lot about budget creep as we go. Things are moving constantly on us. So my suggestion there is it's going to be really hard to come up with that end of stuff to any great detail until we actually run some sort of a solution tender that actually places it hard in the market.
Can I get you to shut your mic off, just so Councillor Ogan can ask the second question? I can't get him on. Sorry, there we go. Councillor Ogan, go.
So, okay, that's fine. So if you can provide the existing information for the past fiscal year to understand expenses and to also understand the expenses specifically for the fires, anything that was allocated to deal with those fires for that specific year. And the revenue already mentioned 75,000. So that could be information, and the additional information that Mayor gets mentioned would be great for the committee. Thank you.
Councillor Richard.
So my question is, if we have to deal with removing the biosolids anyway, do we have a rough idea of what that would cost if we didn't run the facility? Because if we're having to transport biosolids out of the community, we have a cost there that's going to be substantial as well, because we probably don't have enough vehicles in the fleet to deal with that, I'm thinking. Because, I mean, with what we have already, we'd probably have to add. So that's going to have a high cost as well if we don't maintain the facility.
If I may, yes, we could do it ourselves. I mean, we're basically hauling it to someplace like Princeton if they'll take it at rates. The hauling itself is twice a week. If we get the right size truck, you're probably investing as a starting point about the same amount of money in a truck as you would to bring the site up to immediate standards. So there's that as well. We can hire somebody to haul it for us. Those numbers look within 15%. I mean, everything we asked about all appear to be within about 15% of each other. Yeah. The operational costs don't look like they're going to change a heck of a lot. Other than, yes, we do get a bit of revenue off the site when we do sell the material. But I think we also have some hidden costs that you've alluded to regarding the fire and whatnot. So I think there's a lot more costs involved there than we actually show because there are other costs, right?
Well, but I mean, it would be great that we can discuss this at a CAL meeting, because really we have to look at the cost of what it's going to be to transport. Sure, we have the fire cost and other costs, and we'd have to upgrade, but also the same transport costs for anything like that was probably also going to be a lot higher in the future with high fuel prices as well. And the cost of equipment's not getting any cheaper, so.
And we also have to maintain it and capitalize it and replace it over time. It will be, in either way, there's a very significant ongoing cost with disposing of the matter that we have to.
Yeah.
The biggest question, I guess, would be, do we want to be in that business or not? And that's kind of what I'm trying to flesh out now before I chase down a lot of detail or go to the market with a question. I don't want to go to the market with 4 questions, right?
Yeah. Thanks.
Councillor Egan?
Yeah, I believe I see right in your report here under financial risk implications that it says you've had open discussions with service providers for each scenario and feel that we would get cost-effective service regardless of choices. The only other expense that I could see that maybe you might have to do is whether we operate it ourselves or not. You said you need a serviced heated site trailer office with a washroom up there.
Yes, right now we have an operator quite often running the loader up a very steep hill. In the wintertime isn't great to use the washroom up at the airport. There's a number of functional things that we're doing workarounds on right now, but they're not what I would call the ideal place to be with our staff and or the overall site safety. And the site safety is what that's what started this conversation when I first did a walkthrough out there and an inspection. And then it just kind of balloons from there as to where do you put your efforts, right? The workarounds are there, and they were described as temporary at the time until we get sorted out where we want to go. The last year has been very difficult finding the time to really get into some of these things that are sort of working on their own right now. But coming in, like I said, coming into the new budget cycle, you need to be aware if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to have to throw some money at this.
Thank you. And the other question that I would like to raise is that if we're taking this to COW, could we also have whatever the summary was from the previous people who leased the property and why it either was successful or was not successful?
The city has always owned the property. It was a dump
You said
ground.
it was leased out before.
No, it was leased out to another. It was leased out to John Anderson, and another gentleman started Good Earth. It was called Good Earth back in 2006, and they ran it as a for-profit business. But then they decided it was no longer something they wanted to do, so they offered it up to the city. Before that, it was just massive piles of biosolids that had been stored for years. Every time it rained, it went into the Garthwaite's property fields and started to ruin their fields. So there was an issue with that. So then Good Earth came in and decided to start doing something about it. And then the whole biosolid situation came up. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? And some of the customers that were purchasing the Good Earth stopped. And so there is a bit of a controversy whether it's viable dirt or it's not. So the city, that's been a city piece of property just leased back to Good Earth and John and his partner years and years ago.
Okay, thanks.
And if I may, we do have the file on the original deal that was struck with the city. It's 15, 16 years old. Whether or not that analysis is still relevant today, that helped make the decision at the time. Probably not. A lot of the different economics have changed in different areas. But if I recall, it didn't really show a lot of difference. It showed some basic financial gains for the city if we ran it ourselves overall. But we're not talking, we're not making millions of dollars, let's put it that way, right?
And I also think too, we call ourselves the employer of choice, and I think having people working out of a CCAN is probably not the way to go. So if we're going to decide to continue on with this through the cow, then we should be up to standard and set the standard, not have somebody work out of a CCAN. So my motion would be to move this to a COW or COW meeting, Committee of the Whole, in the near future. Oh, hold on a second. Councillor Charn. I thought I heard that.
I agree with the statement that you said, Rick, with whether we want to stay in the business or not stay in the business. With the city spending probably over the $300,000 mark and bringing in $75,000, it seems to be running at quite a loss. And so I think we have to see, is this just going to be, throwing good money after bad? Or can we, make it cost effective? But if we keep having $300,000 expenses every year and we're bringing in 75, that seems like it's a pretty negative business to be in. So, we do need numbers to look at things and make that hard decision. Do we stay with it or do we not?
Yeah, and bearing in mind, it's going to cost us money to deal with our biosolids regardless. I mean,
That's right.
that big figure, we have to deal with that stuff. And it's, that $300,000 figure is kind of there regardless of, that number keeps popping up every time you ask the question, so.
Any other questions? So I'll go back to my motion that we move this to a committee of the whole in the near future with the numbers and everything that Mr. Green can supply for us. So, oh, hold on. CEO Lawless.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I think for, again, just a keeping things clean perspective, the
right.
motion that you're likely looking to move is that the council instruct staff to arrange a committee of the whole meeting to inform council on the operations of the compost facility and potential possibilities for future use.
That's exactly what I said. Yes, that's what CEO Lawless said, is what we'll go with. Councillor Olgan, Councillor Petrosi, all those in favor? Carried. Opposed? Nobody? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Green. Appreciate it. Notices of motion. No notices of motion. Reports from council. Who would like to go first? Councillor Etcher.
Well, it's been a busy few weeks, and I know that everybody's been busy with different activities. I can say that ESS activations have been busy. Even the dog was there. I went on behalf of the mayor to a TNRD out-of-town meeting, and we got to see a lot of new facilities, and it's nice to see what's happening within the region. A lot of positive change. Some of the fire halls with some equipment, some good response times, and I don't know, there's always something happening around town, so I just have to look around and you know, different event all the time, whether it's Wednesday markets or music in the park, so that's great.
Thank you. Councillor Olgan.
So I will be brief. A few activities that I attended. August 10th, I met with Kamloops Immigration Services. It was a great discussion. They have a good items to discuss later on. August 14th, attended the Florentine Business After Business. Very well attended. Again, great discussions at that time. August 17th, I met with Miles Bronze, the Regional Manager for Economic Development Regional and Rural Development Unit. He wanted to understand our relationship with Tourism Nicola Valley. So I have a good discussion with them as well as with the organization. So August 19, attended the Colchana Street Market. I had the opportunity to address a few concerns from people. So it was busy 2 weeks, and I would say that Mayor Getz is not allowed to leave anymore.
Thank you for filling in for me. I appreciate it, Nano. Councillor Charney.
Okay.
Nope. Oh, sorry. Go.
I wasn't in town, but I did get a few little tidbits here. So one is from the District of Mackenzie. It's appliance and toilet rebate. And I thought that maybe council and staff could look at that to see if it's something that we might be interested in.
Are you looking to trade in your toilet?
I have a toilet. I could trade it in, man. I could get $75. And if it's a dual
What are you going
flush,
to use
I could
after
get
that?
100.
What are you going to use after that?
Well, anyway, that's for information. And this is from Canmore. They have their green waste, and so I picked this up for the mayor. And
A lunchbox.
it's a.
Thank you.
They have an excellent green waste program which tied into our biosolids today. So I thought maybe we could also look at something like that. So Canmore gives those away free to anyone who wants. I tried to get a hat from them for the mayor, but they were a little stingy. Maybe if I had had a hat to give them. But
well, that's on you.
Yeah, that's right. It is totally. I should have thought of that beforehand. But anyway, I thought, you know, they've got those, and then they've got the green waste things that they have. And of course, they have to have them secured because of the bears. But it's something that we could look into for the future. So that's what I did. So I'm going to give the mayor the toilet.
Oh, thank you.
And the
Thank you very much. I also got a shirt and some soap. We all got some soap. So thank you. We're not going to allow Councillor Charney to go to other communities anymore. So, any other reports? Alrighty, here I go. I went on holidays, but before that, July 30th there was a car show. Really enjoyed that. Good turnout. August 2nd we had DEI training, sensitivity training. That was well attended. August 8th I met with Jackie Taggart just to catch up on what's happening in the community, and she's always concerned about things. We had a parcel tax meeting that night and a committee of the whole. ESS callouts have been Juniper House. There was a fire, and we housed some people, and then of course the wildfire in Lytton. ESS callouts. ESS team has done an amazing job. Krista has done an amazing job in forming teams, and the teams are well presented and well trained. I'm proud to say that we had everybody where they needed to be. Nobody was left out in the cold. And the other thing I'm going to put out there on social media, people constantly ask, what is the city doing on these things? We are so far ahead of your comments that by the time we get to your comments, we've already are running and getting people into the places they need to be. So be aware of the fact that your city is always aware that we're here to help others. So the other social media position I'd like to get out there is when we are looking at smoke coming over a hill, and until we absolutely know where it's coming from, I would appreciate that people would stop coming up with ideas that the fire is coming down the valley and it's 5 miles out of town. You are getting people jazzed up that are already dealing with stress from the flood, and it's the last thing we need. So please do not post this stuff on the internet until you know exactly what's going on. If you feel you need to be in the know, give your dad a call or somebody else, but stop scaring people with information that's completely incorrect. And council and mayor will be there. I made a radio announcement. ESS made an announcement. We are ready to go. Have no worries about it. We are ready to go to cover everything that happens. Kelowna, we sent over a tender and some crew, and they'll be there for another 9 days. We were one of 48 communities, I do believe. Kelowna has 500 firefighters on the ground. My brother stayed with us for 5 days, and they were able to return to West Kelowna today. Rapid damage assessments have been done. They're working as best as they can, but we are always ready to take people in, and we are always ready to share our resources with any community that needs our help at any point in time. I'm extremely proud of our firefighters. I'm extremely proud of our ESS. I'm extremely proud of our EOC directors. We have everything ready to go here, so don't be aware of the fact that we are not ready when something happens. We're already in action by the time you bring it up on social media. So cool your jets on that, because it really affects people, and I hope it stops. Now after that, my dad talk, we'll go to Gas Buddy. So Kamloops today was 170 on the low, 175.4 on the high. Kelowna is 171.9 on the low and 181.9 on the high. Princeton has one gas station, so they're 186.9. Cranbrook has basically one gas station, and they're 181.9. Merritt, we are 182.9 to 189.9. We are the highest in the central interior, or the southern interior. So, yeah, so what up with that? So maybe the gas stations could kind of look at that and maybe make some changes. It would be nice, rather than we get hosed every time we go to the gas pump. Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh, I would also like to thank Councillor Egan and the Grand for giving out food vouchers for our ESS people. Really appreciated that. They appreciated it. So that's one thing I also want to say is Councillor Egan and everybody on council, but mostly Councillor Egan, is always there to offer her services no matter what happens. So we do appreciate that. No, I really do. Also too, Friday night was August 18th was the Sense Open House. I was there with Councillor Petrozzi, Councillor Egan, and Councillor Etchart, and it looked pretty good. Councillor Egan had some very hard, tough hitting questions, and I think we're going to have a good team. I think the changes that have happened with the BCHL now allows them to have a wider variety of Zach was there as well. Has a wider variety of players to choose from. They're not so dictated on who they can have and who they can't have. So I'm looking forward to the season. And I would suggest if you don't have your season tickets, you probably should get them, because it's going to be a good year, I think. I think it's going to be a really good year. And for me, that's it at this point. Anyone else? Okay, give me 1 second. Information items. We have one information item. This is the Battered Women's Support Services letter. Any questions arising from that or anything? I just wanted you guys to see all of that. Closed session. Recommendation that the meeting be closed to press and public under section 91A of the Community Charter, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or any other position appointed by the municipality. Can I have a mover on that? Councillor Etchart, Councillor Charney. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will take 5 minutes and we will be into the closed meeting.